Hello and welcome to the Coaching Crowd podcast with me, Zoe Hawkins, and my friend and co-host Jo Wheatley.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's podcast, where we're going to be talking to you about the 4 principles of group and team coaching. And these are principles that we created as part of our Foundations of Group and Team Coaching course. And the reason that we created that program is that once people have undertaken their one-to-one coaching training, they're often thinking about what CPD do I do next? And they're also thinking about their business and how can I create a sustainable and successful coaching business? And being able to offer group and team coaching is a great way to diversify and also be able to have more fun with your coaching. And of course, you can't cover everything in your initial coaching training. And so group and team coaching is a separate piece. And we know that people are quite nervous about developing into those areas of work, and with good reason, because there's a lot of additional complexities within group and team coaching. And so today we're going to talk about some of the underlying principles and help that to feel more accessible for you.
Absolutely. And these principles run throughout the core of our program alongside the 5 phases of group and team coaching, which essentially walk you through the structure on how to build and facilitate group and team coaching. These principles, they're there more as thought provocation, a source of inspiration, a source to get you connected to the work that you're doing. So the first principle we're going to share with you is about contribution to humanity. And this is a principle really close to our hearts in terms of your why. So, why do you do the work that you do? So, in the context of group or team coaching, it's the essence of when you are working with groups and teams, you are contributing to humanity. That is, you can't avoid that. When you bring people together, they will be changed and you will be changed as a result of the work that you'll be doing. So, what is the change that you are here to facilitate in the world? What is your contribution? And we know that's big picture, and we know that that can be misty and hard to grasp. But we think that's a really important anchor point for doing group and team coaching work. As Jo introduced, like it's complex and it can be challenging. And so, if you have a really strong reason and clarity around what you're contributing, that's very resourcing and can help you to um, persevere through what may be some tricky sessions.
I think that contribution to humanity is about connecting into our values. You know, what are the reasons that we are driven to engage in this work? If somebody just thinks, oh, I fancy doing a group coaching program, I mean, think about what sort of experience would be created from that energy versus doing quite a deep dive into what is it that's drawing me to do this work? What's the energy that I have around it? What is it that comes into my mind? What sort of experience do I want to create? And it's focusing here around the ripple effect of group and team coaching and really getting you prepared way before you even start advertising the opportunities for people to join you. If it's an open access scenario, perhaps you're designing or creating an opportunity from an in-house role. You might be a manager or leader, perhaps you're in L&D. And yes, it might be something that other people have asked you to do, but you'll create a much better experience if you can really connect into how the experience that you're going to create can contribute to humanity. So we're moving beyond the one-to-one interaction. We're actually moving even beyond the group and team interaction, and we are almost reverse engineering it through how this can create a positive legacy in the world. And perhaps you're listening and you can think of experiences you've had in your life where you felt that from the person that you or the people that have created experiences that you have been part of.
Mm. And I think there is something about that contribution to humanity that is magnetic to
Mm.
others. So you can sit and you can labor over a sales page when you get to that point. So you've got this idea, oh yeah, fancy doing a group program. Oh, I'm going to do it for these people. I'm going to solve this problem. Great, let's put that on paper. If you don't have a really strong connection to this contribution, the energy can come across as relatively flat and just one dimensional. Whereas if you have passion and you have heart and you have soul behind the program that you're going to be bringing out into the world, that's received, and people get excited by being a part of that program. So I think this contribution to humanity is both the experience that you create and the difference that your work will facilitate for the people that join into it. And there's a business side to it, which is it's a really powerful tool to be able to express the power of your work.
And when you're co-creating those experiences with the group or the team that you're working with, it's really helping them to connect into, like, what is the purpose of this work that we're going to be doing together? You know, the time and the energy that we're investing in this. What do you want the positive contribution to humanity to be as a result of this experience that we are co-creating? And that's a very can be a very powerful and a very unlocking experience for you to be able to facilitate, you know, with a group or a team of people. And it elevates the work. It underlines the critical importance of it.
Yeah. So that's the first principle. Our second principle is about radical acceptance. And this principle recognizes that group and teamwork is complex. Lots can come up within groups and teams. And when you are able to sit in curiosity with what's showing up in the group and team coaching space and meeting that with radical acceptance, so you may meet resistance, for example, from team members. You can meet that with radical acceptance of, okay, this is happening. Let's explore it together. And I think on the other hand, you also have radical acceptance of all the voices. So in a group, it's really important that inclusion is at the center of your spaces. So how do you, as a facilitator of these experiences, really create a space where all voices can be heard and validated and witnessed and respected? So it covers a number of different angles, this principle.
Yeah, and in our program, we talk about power and the different types of power that exist in group and team experiences. There's a lot of complexity around this. And I think radical acceptance also relates to radical acceptance of your own behavior, you know, your own reactions to things. And you might surprise yourself sometimes by the way that you react as a member of a group or a team coaching experience. And also, as a group or a team coach, you're outnumbered. There are more people that are not the group or team coach, than you. So it's you and a number of other people. What is it that you need to accept? So you're aware of your biases and how they might show up, and how will you create a space that has, I suppose, the best likelihood of creating psychological safety? Because I think that term is used a lot. We use it a lot, don't we? But there's a real delicate balance around what that is for different individuals, and how to enable that even when challenging content comes up. And growth often involves those moments where you feel stuck for a time, or you feel shocked, or it's something is new, and how can we welcome those opportunities and experiences so that everybody can learn together?
Yeah, it's like, how do you step in and radically accept all that is unknown? Because sometimes to be able to accept something, you need answers, you need knowledge, you need awareness. But actually, in the groups and team facilitation, obviously, there will be times when you don't know what's going to happen, and that we see that in one-to-one coaching, don't we? Certainly with new coaches, where they step into a space and they may be over prepared because they just want to make sure that they can really serve those clients. Well, if you imagine that at scale, you're no longer serving one client, you might be serving 8 clients altogether. You simply can't prepare for what's going to come up. And there is a piece of, like, how do you radically accept that unknown such that you can embrace the experience? And so this principle starts to introduce that concept of getting comfortable with what may be uncomfortable for you.
Yeah, and that not being an expert can be very uncomfortable for the group and team coach. It can be very uncomfortable for the members that are used to having those things as part of their identity. So I think radical acceptance is also recognizing that there are different parts and layers to our identities as well, inside and outside of the group or the team. So there's a lot of skill required to create those kind of environments. The third principle is many mirrors. And you might already be starting to make connections between principle one and principle two, and now principle two and principle three. So many mirrors is really highlighting how we might see reflections of ourselves in other people. So when they say things about their experience, and we might feel like, oh my gosh, it's like they're in my head, or there's something so similar. Or maybe we see an expression of anger in somebody else and we haven't expressed that ourselves. Perhaps we hadn't even identified it, but we, in that moment of seeing it in somebody else, a part of us recognizes that too as a reflection of ourself. And so how do we create an environment where we enable people to use that as a rich source of learning?
I was working with a client this morning, not in group, in a group space, but in a one-to-one space, and they were sharing a story of how their child had essentially said something to them and really held the mirror up about their behavior. And we had a moment where we were laughing and saying, "Your children really are the best mirror holders." And that is really what this is about in the group and team space. Is members of the group will hold the mirror up for each other as well, by accident, not necessarily purposefully, but through the behaviors and actions that they take. The group receive that. And so we get to see and experience ourselves as members in lots of different ways. And so learning is accelerated in this group space. And we see that time and time again, Joe, don't we? When we've done, group and team development programs, people come away and they say, the greatest source of learning has been learning from each other. It's a normalizing experience to be able to hear the inside thoughts, I guess, that people have, and realize that you're not actually alone with those thoughts. So these many mirrors will show both the light and the dark. And you, as a facilitator of these spaces, as a coach, you're navigating that. You're helping clients to understand that what they're seeing may be a reflection of themselves, or it may not be. And what does that mean for them? So the many mirrors creates complex psychodynamics, which are really rich in learning. And so on the program of Foundations of Group and Team Coaching, we spend time being able to look at and understand and help other members understand what those psychodynamics are there for, and what the data is that is going to help you to enable people to achieve why they're there.
I always think of a glitter ball when I think about the many mirrors principle. And I think, if I was looking at, there's these fragments. I like the idea of like fragments of self. And if I was to somehow move one fragment along, what part of me might I be able to see or get a little hint of that perhaps I couldn't see when I was looking at it, maybe in the the way I repeatedly or I'm used to looking at things. So it's also leaning into that what if. And there are also echoes of these principles in our emotions coaching practitioner training, which we created way before we created this. So really all of these principles can also be applied to one-to-one coaching. But that many mirrors, I'm thinking about, like, if we took anger as an example, as an emotion, like how might the anger perceive us? So if there is a feeling within a frustration, perhaps within a team, that's fairly common emotion to be experienced within a team, how might that frustration perceive the team and the way the team is responding to it? So many mirrors doesn't only need to apply to other individuals who are present in that space. When we're doing group and team coaching work, we're taking that systemic lens. So we might include things such as, the climate doesn't have to be people. It might be people that used to be in the team as well. So what we might call like ghosts of the team. So there is a lot of depth to these principles.
Which leads us, I guess, to the last principle, which is we are all one. And as you can hear from that, it's this sense of interconnectivity. So no one person can stand alone in a group and team. You are all interconnected in some way. So my learning is also going to influence your learning and somebody else's. And this concept of interconnectivity will influence everybody's results in that group and team space. So we introduce this concept of everybody being connected, it in conjunction with all of the other principles, to help you as the facilitator of these group and team spaces understand where where you are, where other people are at any one point in time, what's happening in the space, what's happening in the system, what's happening for one member's one-to-one objective, what's that influencing in terms of all the others, because you're able to sort of then start to see group and team coaching almost as a, I don't know, as a dance, it's not a thing that is going to stay still. It's static, it's going to move. People are connected at all times. So being able to almost take a helicopter view of what's happening in your group and team space will help you to be the best sort of facilitator and coach for that journey.
I think we are all one extends beyond that as well. So thinking about like sentient beings, that we are all one. We cannot really be distinguished. And perhaps this is an existential view, but it's drawing on that, from one another. So in the way that we think about, we are a part of the system, and we are alive as a part of that system, and the system is alive within us. We aren't different to it. And if we think about our role in the world, we are part of this one world together. So there are lots of really interesting angles to explore around the concept of we are all one. And we know that in team coaching environments, there often are rather challenges around a sense of belonging. Not everybody feels that they belong. So one of the things you can do with teams or groups is explore some of these principles as part of your sort of what we call the grounding and gathering phase, and how you're going to work with groups and what is their view around the relationships. Because actually we coach the relationships between people. And when you're working with a group or a team, you're working with the whole. So yes, there are individual members, but your role as the coach is to coach. The client is the group or the team. So it is one in the sense of that, like one group or one team, whilst recognizing they are also connected to many, many people and other groups and teams beyond that. So it's a lot to hold as a group or a team coach, and it's a lot to support those individual members to recognize and to consider in terms of the goals that they want to achieve on the program that they're working with you on.
Mm. And the principles we've shared with you today, they're quite high level, so you might be thinking, what can I practically do with those principles? And I think on a practical level, so those principles are there, as we said, thought provocation, taking you beyond perhaps where your current thinking lies to be able to come back in. And I think when you look through the principles of contribution to humanity, radical acceptance, about clarifying the reason why, we talked about that, radical acceptance, checking in on unconscious bias, inclusion, how you contract and create safe spaces. Many mirrors is looking at how prepared are you to have the mirror held up to you by 6 to 8 people at once. It takes a certain amount of resilience and stamina, I think, to step into these group and team spaces, as it does for members as well. So what are the things that you can put in place to normalize that experience? And then we are all one. This process of interconnectivity is accepting that, learning is going to be accelerated. So what are the different tools and activities that you can introduce into group and team spaces that can leverage the multiple personalities that you have in the space? And, the course also offers, lots of different tools and activities to help you to be able to do that.
These principles, I see them as like an orientation to the work, but also we have them as this golden thread that go through each of the 5 phases on the program, which takes you through from an idea about becoming a group and team coach and why you might want to do it and how you might do it, all the way through to evaluation, what you do in the middle, how you deal with tricky situations that arise. And in each of those 5 phases, we refer back to each of these 4 principles with specific guidance around how they relate to each of those different phases. But as I said, you can think about how these principles might apply generally to your work as a coach. But if this conversation has got you thinking, I've always been thinking about group and team coaching, or I don't know about team coaching, but group coaching I'm really interested in, or I'm already working with teams, but maybe there's more for me to learn. I've never really done a a qualification or a course in this, and I would really like to find out what I know and what I don't know. And I also really want to grow my confidence. Then, of course, you can come and join our program, or you could join our challenge.
Absolutely. We've got a really exciting challenge coming out very soon. So you can register for this challenge. It's going to be a challenge that's going to help coaches who are interested in, stepping away from one-to-one coaching into the group coaching space. We're going to help you to design a signature group coaching program. And it's going to accumulate in a free workshop with Joe and I to help you to build those ideas out and form your group coaching program to give you the confidence to step out and do this work. So you can sign up for that challenge at igcompany.co.uk/challenge24. It starts on the 4th of November. So you can sign up now for the next week or so, grab your space there, and we will see you very soon. So the email address again, the web address again is igcompany.co.uk/challenge24.